I was able to double the amount of flow through my canister filter without having to change canister filters, just improving it. I went down a rabbit hole for about 2 weeks so you don't have to. I found this gadget. This gadget is a flow meter used for gasoline pumps and other liquids so that when a liquid goes through, it tells you how many gallons per minute go through it. And that allowed me to test canister filters. And so I tested 3 different canister filters over the course of many days and many parts. And I'm going to share with you how to get the most out of it. So first, the canister filter I was playing with, the E-heim 1500. This thing is huge. I run 2 of them on my 800-gallon aquarium. It is rated to do 600 gallons per hour, right? It actually runs, oh, where'd my pump go? Right here. It actually runs this pump right here, and I was doing it all wrong. So, like most people, well, I've got a canister filter, and I want an inline heater, right? So I had one of those. Here we go, right here. Ran that. What I didn't know is how much that might slow it down. And so I've got it all laid out here for you, and I'm going to tell you so that way you can make choices on, is it worth running that? Should I just run a normal heater instead? Should I use bigger tubing? Should I swap the tubing out? And so I started with just testing on the tank, what was it doing the way I had it set up? And the answer is, well, different for each canister. But we're just going to focus on this one for right now. One of them started at 236 gallons per hour, less than half in testing on the canister filter. So I said, I've got to be able to do better. So I started testing. And by the time I was done, I was able to get it to 540 gallons per hour. So almost max efficiency. And here's the things that made the biggest difference. So, up first, I was running 3/4 inch intakes and outputs. So, something like this right here. It would come over the tank, it would come in, and it would leave that way, both ways. I was running a strainer like this. I also tested big custom 3D printed ones to make sure how much would this restrict if it got plugged up a little bit. I was running, you can see here, so this part on this connects to the pump, just like this. Screws in, and that's what helps you pump. But this tubing that comes with the pump was pretty small, honestly. Like it's this little diameter, which is, well, I can tell you. I got way into the weeds. We use our calipers here. It was a little bit more than a half an inch. It's upside down, but take my word for it, it's about a half an inch. I ended up upsizing all the way to a full inch, and that made a huge difference. But this being half an inch, this being like 3/4 of an inch for this one up here for the heater, I was using an adapter to try and get it there, and this was all part of the system. Yes, everything was clamped down, so there was no leaks or anything. But I have to set the stage for what was going on so that you, when I reference it, you go, oh, that part did that. I get it now. So, let me pull up the notes. The first thing was actually removing the quick disconnect. So what's a quick disconnect? The 2 parts you can undo to take the hose on and off. I don't have an extra one right now. I ended up removing it altogether just to test, and just the quick disconnects, because again, it's basically 2 of these like back to back, kind of. It restricts that flow from your hose. That was 30 gallons per hour. So of the 600, that was 30 of it right there on the return. The next thing was removing the heater. So this apparatus, right? We had this from the pump. There was a quick disconnect here. Actually, it was right about here. And then it went to this, and then the heater. Removing that was another 33 gallons. So just having this section right here was 33 gallons. Now, that's getting big gains because I only started at 236. So each 30-gallon chunk is more than a 10% increase for me, right? So that's pretty good. The next thing, I cleaned the impeller. So the impeller in this housing here, I took it out, we cleaned it, and it was real dirty and gunky. There's no sand, no hair trapped or anything like that, but just a lot of mold. Scuzzy. What would that do, I asked. Well, I'll tell you, 12 gallons per hour. So I got a 12 gallon per hour increase by cleaning the impeller. So not the biggest, not the worst, but hey, if you were trying to squeak out every ounce of efficiency on my system, that was worth 12 gallons right there. Okay? The biggest differences was swapping out the 5/8 tubing, basically, in adapters. So 5/8, this is actually 16, is this 16 millimeter? This one doesn't say. But swapping out the tubing it came with for this 1-inch tubing. Now this is 1-inch inner diameter. So not the outer diameter, but the inner diameter. And that was important because I wanted, so when you measure this, you get the 1 inch, right? So that is twice of the 1/2 inch. Like, that's huge in comparison. Now, with all pumps, there's gonna be restriction points. And for us on this pump, it was right here because this is a 3/4 inch. So it went from 3/4 to 1/2. We want to go 3/4 to 1 inch. And so you buy like a brass adapter like this, maybe, you screw that in, and then you can go and screw on, maybe a nipple that will get you to 1 inch. And that's basically what I did. I used actually this right here. This is 3/4 to 1 inch. This is the exact one I used on one of them. And then you put the hose to that, and you get less resistance in the flow. And what you wouldn't know is going from 1/2 inch to 3/4, it's 400% more flow. Going from 3/4 to 1 inch is 400% more flow that you can get. It grows exponentially. Now, the pump can only pump so much, but if you give lots of friction, it slows it down. And again, we started at 236 and got all the way to 540 by doing the removal of the heater, removing the quick disconnects. Well, removing it, but then also I added my own back in. So I bought these. These are 1-inch valves with unions that you screw on here. I'm missing a piece because I used them all, but you can unscrew this. You can still use it as a valve. It still works as a shutoff. It's still a quick disconnect, but it's got the 1-inch inner diameter, and that's the important part. But even with this, you don't get quite the whole 1 inch. On the interior, we're only getting 3/4. So there's still restriction points even when you put it into the pipe, but way better than 1/2 an inch, okay? So that was these big E-heim filters. And I said, well, what would it be like with the Fluval filter, right? So we went to the Fluval FX4 that I run on my 230 gallon tank. And I went through the same exercise. I go, okay, well, let's take it one step at a time. Is it repeatable? And so I'm going to start with the filter itself is rated for 700 gallons per hour. Using the flow meter, was getting 269. So that's less than half again. Like, that's way worse. So I removed the intake sponge, so one of our pre-filters, to see was that restricting it. Turns out, no, it was not. Was not restricting it, got the same exact flow rate. Okay, still 269. I had one of these on there. Was that restricting the flow? Yes, it was, by about 12 gallons per hour. 12 gallons per hour, sorry. And so, yeah, then I tried this and this. That's how I knew, and I put these on, and I still got the 12 gallon per hour increase. So it was this, the fact that it had gotten dirty, and there was a little bit of stuff on it, but it was restricting the 3/4 inch pipe. So on both the intake and output, on the intake, I built this because it looks nice, and it's black, and it blends in my background and everything, and that was the pipe. And so I was restricting on the input. On the output, I had the corrugated tubing that comes with it. And so that means with all the ridges, right? I wanted to see, because we always heard that kind of pipe slows water down. And so I replaced that next. The whole output line, I replaced with the flexible 1-inch inner diameter. Now, cool thing on the FX4, 5, and 6, this just fits right on natively. You just put a clamp on it. There's no adapting. Real easy. So that's nice. How big of a difference was that, you ask? Unfortunately, not huge. 13 gallons per hour. But it did slow it down. That is slower, right? 13 gallons per hour. Now, however, I didn't do this before I swapped the intake. So it actually could have been a bigger gain because I was throttling at the intake and I didn't know it yet. So the intake was 3/4 of an inch with tubing. It was actually 3/4 inch tubing, not the 1-inch, because that's the way I designed it. And I swapped that 3/4 hard plumb with the tubing to 1-inch. That got us to a 75 gallon per hour increase. So now we started out 269. We're now up to 357. All right. Now, here is another little thing. We might go, well, how much difference does a clean filter versus a dirty filter make? Because now I had the intake and the output. I didn't have a heater or anything like that. It was just like, okay, so now it's about as efficient as I can get, and I'm still only getting the 369 out of 700. Like, ooh. Well, I knew my canister filter was really, really dirty. Like, the sponge was like a brick of mud. And so I said, oh, that must be it, right? So I spend like 40 minutes cleaning this thing, clean as a whistle. And I plug it back in, I get the flow meter set up again, and it was 369. So I got 12 gallons per hour. So it really wasn't restricting that much at all from being really dirty. Now, I've heard rumors, and I don't know, and I don't want to, without testing more, I can't really say if it's true or not, but supposedly the gallon per hour on Fluval filters, or at least the FX series, was overstated. Without media, perfect scenario type of thing. And then like the E-heim stuff is always supposed to be full of media and actually in use. It's leaning that way of like, oh, I've done it. I upsized stuff. I optimized it as much as I could. There's the least amount of elbows I can use. There's no slack in the lines. And I'm only getting 369 out of 700 that I should be getting. So I want to double check that real quick because I'm pretty sure FX4, yep, 700 gallons per hour. So, yep, it's really short, but not that flow's end all be all. My main goal here was get the most. You've already bought the thing. Let's get the most out of it. And like this one I haven't done behind me. It runs a Fluval 407. I have a little canister pre-filter on it. I have also a UV sterilizer on it. And so it is getting much lower flow. And so really, what did I want to explain in this video? These little decisions, these little adapters are going, oh, well, I got 2 pieces of tubing, they're different size. Let me just make this work. Let me, oh yeah, it'll look nicer if I have smaller plumbing in the tank. All of these little decisions do lower the flow. And so if you want more flow, if you want the 600 out of the 600 instead of 200 and some out of the 600, which I did for the 800 gallon, I'm going, I need more. And same thing with the FX4, we started out at 269 and we got it up to 369. So 100 gallon per hour increase. Now, overall, when you're running multiple filters, I basically on the 800 gallon was able to double the amount of flow that I had going through the media. Now, that doesn't necessarily make it clean any faster because running back and forth really fast or doing an efficient trip, kind of the same, but it allowed me more flow, and I wanted that. So I want you to know that each little thing adds up to big gains, and that you can get, you might be where I was, where I've got all of these things of, it'll do for now, I'll add this thing in, and maybe your heater broke and you took it out, but you left some of the adapters, or your UV sterilizer burned out and you haven't replaced it. Like, you're giving up flow for that. And as long as you're okay with that, it's fine. But for, that 30, 40 bucks, you could buy a flow meter like this. You could test and optimize your stuff. And I think that is what I'll be doing from now on, is kind of optimizing. I thought a dirty filter would have been way worse, and it wasn't. I didn't think we'd get 12 or 13 gallons per hour to cleaning the impeller, so that's good to know. And so, yeah, now you've got the tools. You don't have to spend 2 weeks. You can kind of take my word for it. Would you probably gain more out of even bigger tubing? Yes, you would, but it gets really expensive the bigger you start going, and there still are some choke points. I tried hooking up to the big canister filter here, a pump that did 4,000 gallons per hour, much more than the 600, and I could barely get it above 600. So the fact that you have some choke points and the way it was set up, you still have to increase all the sizes. And one last thing, I mounted my pump. So I had originally, why do I have this extra one? It has a 90-degree bend. Well, each 90-degree bend, each little adapter, you lose flow because it sends it and then hits a wall and has to go that way. Creates friction. Turns out you can mount this pump sideways. So now I have a straight shot elbow, or a straight shot, basically like this, coming out of it. And that increased it, and that's what actually got me 30 gallons per hour more. So I still only hit 540 out of 600, and I realized my situation is probably still not quite optimal, but it's still twice as good as it was. And I think if you combine that with the video here, where you optimize your media and all that, you can really get a lot more value out of your canister filter. So check out that video. Hopefully you're now going to go to the hardware store, pick up some parts, and optimize and get double what you were.